is going to be, today it won't be a long demo, and I know y'all are glad of that. I'm going to turn the body of a Christmas ornament and then the finial and the top piece, and to show you how I make all the three of those, and then I'm going to end up dyeing. They're all going to be made out of cherry. All the parts will be made out of cherry, and I'm going to dye the finial, the top and bottom finial, black. So if anybody has any questions, please stop me. I might need the rest. I'm going to start out with my bow gouge, and I'm going to just rough this body round and put a tenon on it so I can put it in my chuck. I could use my skew here to round this off, or my roughing gouge, but I would rather use my bow gouge. That's just what I'm used to. And since this wood is mounted in grain, it cuts the side grain pretty easy. Depending on where I'm standing. Yeah, I was plunging in to start off with, get the corners off, and now I'm just actually doing a left to right cut, more of a scraping cut. But it's I'm just trying to get it round and fairly smooth. Still not round. Now I'm going to plunge in just like I was when I started. I'm going to plunge in just enough to turn my tenon. And Gerald and I were discussing this earlier. When I plunge in right here, if you notice, can you see on the screen I've got, I'll move the light. Let's see if that'll, okay, so right here, this is considered an open flute right here. All right, that is actually open. This is about 3/4 open. I'm going to go ahead and close it almost all the way closed, and I'm going to start this cut right here, and it prevents the tool from skating on you. If I were to start right here open, and I try to make this cut, and I probably can't do it on purpose now, but I'll do it any other time it would happen. But if I try to make a cut right here, it usually skates and runs down your piece and messes up your finish. But if you come in here closed, as soon as you make that initial cut, now you can open it up because you have a ridge for your bevel to ride on. So once you get that done, once you get that first cut, it's gonna follow that and work out great. See, there's my skate. That's what I was talking about. I didn't try to do it. It happens. On making a tenon, one of the critical things is you want your shoulder right in here to be, if not perfectly square, recessed back a little bit, so the jaws will actually close up. If you leave a radius in here, your jaws won't touch, and it's not going to hold your piece very well. So I've got a tenon. I hope I don't have it too small. And I'll put this chuck on here and then turn this piece around in the jaws. Everybody in here, if y'all see anybody sleeping during the day, during this demo, everybody here has been to the shop, and this is what we've been doing for the last month or 2 months, I think. So these guys that's been there will probably get bored with this and go to sleep. May go to sleep anyway.
Anybody needs any coffee or sugar?
I need some coffee. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't need any coffee.
Yeah, I think you're jumpy enough.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I did spin the piece by hand first to make sure that it was going to clear everything before I actually started turning it on. So now I'm just going to make a few little cuts and try to make a sphere or close to a sphere. I never can make, like, I can't do like Don and make the perfect sphere, but when Janice Levi was here, I assisted Janice Levi and John C. Campbell, and she likes to make her ornament bodies perfectly round. She wants a 2-inch ball. And I guess that's okay if you like a round ornament, but I kind of like mine to be a little squashed, a little squatted some. And I do that because if I try to make a round one side's squatted and the other side's not. So I make both sides squatted. It's easier to fix than it is to make a perfect sphere out of it. So I'm not going to have the perfect round 2-inch ball.
Years ago, we had a demo. Somebody showed up. They got a ring of some kind. There's metal pieces you can find, and you put that on
Yeah.
the side, and that'll tell you
Where you need to cut, yeah.
But I'm with you. I like it.
No, I like if you would take a tennis ball and kind of put a little pressure on it and kind of squeeze it just a little bit, that's kind of the shape that I end up going to. Even if I try to make a sphere, that's what it ends up being anyway. So. Okay, I'm going, you see, if I noticed, I started right here making this cut going in, so I'm going downhill. And actually what that means is the fibers are running this way. So as long as I'm cutting this first fiber right here, I'm going downhill. So when I cut this fiber, it's supported by the ones underneath. So as I'm cutting this one, so it's cutting downhill. If I were to go uphill, it's just like taking your pocket knife and sharpening your pencil from your lead coming up. It's gonna snap the wood. So that's going uphill, which is the wrong direction. I'm going downhill, and then I'll come on this side, and I will go downhill this way. That makes sense? I'm just going to scrape these corners off a little bit.
Sam,
Yes, sir?
when you do what you were just doing, smoothing that with the wing of your shadow,
Mm-hmm.
is that face of your tool pretty much closed, pretty much up and down, or is it open?
Can you see it? Can you see it in the camera? I just from where I was cutting, I just picked it straight up so you can see it. So it's not completely closed, but it's close to being completely closed, and that's a scrape. If I were to drop my handle, which I don't have enough room to do that in here, if I'm scraping here, that's a scrape. If I were to drop my handle and then open my flute up a little bit more, that's just more of a shear scrape. So you're going to get a much better cut because as the wood comes around the edge of the tool, it shears it off. So it's a lot better cut. But actually what I'm doing right here is just scraping. And if you're not careful, you'll get a lot of tear out when you scrape. Of course, the key thing is having a good sharp tool. Don, you probably turn all yours with the skew, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's sandpaper.
Sandpaper's a good cutting tool. I'll switch over from my bow gouge to my spindle gouge, and I think I'll have a little more control with it since it's a little bit smaller. I keep on, I'll remove one hump and I'll make another one, so that don't happen to you guys, does it? Okay. Do we need the sand in here at all, Phil, or just a little bit, or none? I don't want to create a lot. I don't need a lot of dust. We don't want to create a lot of dust in here. No, we never have. I might sand a little bit. I'm not going to put any of the dye on here, and I can always sand this body later on to get it really slick. I'm starting off at 400, and then I back up to 120. I'm on 120 right now, Richard. If you can, I can tell by looking at this, it's not near about squatty as I would like for it to be. Show everybody.
Sandpaper. Where you have the staple together. You know how to get around that and not have to sand it. Other than use the
Texture it. Stipple it. You're right.
You still need this.
You can stipple it. You can certainly. Yeah, that's right. Well, we're supposed to use sandpaper like it's somebody else's paper anyway. You're not supposed to, people are stingy with sandpaper, and just because you use 120, when it's all gone, it don't mean it's 320. It don't change. So you just get another sheet. But all this is together. This is 120, 180, 220, 320, and 400. And they're all stapled together. And Janice Levi does this, and that's where I got that from. But anyway, you can just do one and flip it over and do the next one, and it works out pretty good. It's all kind of handy. Instead of looking all over the floor for it, that's usually where mine ends up. So now you just have one big wad over the floor instead of all of it. I'm going to put a little dimple right in here for my drill. And I'm going to run a half-inch drill through all the way through the hollow, all the way through the piece, so I can hollow it. Oh, this one don't come out with it. Okay, back to where we were. Get everything out of the way. I'm going to drill a half-inch hole all the way through, and that will give me a little room to do my hollowing. You notice I'm hanging on to my chuck because sometimes your chuck will stick, or your drill bit will get hot and stick in the wood. When you reel it back out, all of this is going to stay in there, and that is a nasty sight. I've done that, and this thing just sit there and swirled like this, and all I could do was kind of hope I hit the button over here, and this thing went right across my face. So it could be pretty dangerous. So hang on to that chuck. I have a homemade hollowing tool that I use for my Christmas ornaments, and this is all I use it for. Move this elbow knocker out of the way. Y'all know I worked for a pipeline company, so I was around a lot of the welders, and they would throw their pipeline file. And it's actually called a pipeliner's file because it's longer than a regular half-round file, and they would throw them away pretty regular. Oh, Fred Sanford would scoop them up because they make great hollowing tools. So I heated this guy up. The file itself is brittle. You're never supposed to use the file for anything. People make scrapers and things out of them, but they're kind of dangerous because the file is heat treated. It's so hard, so brittle that it'll snap. But the tang is not heat treated. It's just mild steel. Of course, the edge doesn't last as long. But I heated it up with my torch and put a little bend in it and sharpened it and made a little scraper out of it. And that's what I will hollow this guy out with. Sir? So I've used it quite a bit. There's a little bend, used to be a little bit longer than that, but this one's probably, it washes it out. This one's probably 5, 6 years old, so it's time for me to make another one, I think. Anyway, it works pretty good, and I'm going to try to leave this 1/2-inch hole. I'm going to try not to touch this end of it, which I usually end up touching some of it, so it's going to make this hole, this end's going to be a little bit larger, so I'll end up measuring it before I actually make my tenon for it. But the other side, I hope I don't go through that side, so it should stay the same. And now I've got a shoulder in there. Right there is where I just stopped. So I'm going back to the middle, to the hole, and I'm swinging it over. I'm finding the hole, I'm swinging it over. Just as long as I don't go through the other hole, I'm okay. I don't guess you have to hollow this out. You can make it solid. I don't think it'd be too heavy. You won't turn over your tree, but the point is that to hollow it out is to make it lighter. I'm gonna stop. Yes, sir?
Instead of going in and dragging it back towards you, are you just kind of doing a series of in and then in and in like that?
I'm kind of going across because this is the grain again. The grain is running this way. Okay, so it's going to cut better side grain. It's right the opposite what I was doing with my bow gouge. I plunged in on the side grain, so that's where it's going to cut good. So now I'm going in and finding the hole, and now I'm coming back this way. So I'm on the side grain on the inside of the piece, and it cuts good. If I just take it and push it in, which I do some of that too, you push it in, now you're going in grain. You're going against the end grain, so you're going to get a lot of tear out. But on the inside of this, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to see it anyway. But it cuts better going in from inside to the outside. And I have here it is. This is my depth gauge to make sure. I want to know where the bottom of the hole is. This works great. So I'm gonna go in here and find the bottom where I stopped. And it's right there. Whoa. Oh, I missed it. Okay, so I'm right there as far as hollowing. Squirrel. Yeah. So I still got a good ways to go on my depth. And I'll stop and use my calipers, my homemade calipers. Yes, sir.
You said you drilled the hole all the way through. How do you want to drill the hole? You want to
All the way through.
You want to go,
through the sphere?
you want to go all the way through the sphere. Yeah, all the way through the sphere, because when I part it off, I want the hole to be on the other end of it. So actually, you could drill a hole all the way through this thing if you wanted to. I'm way up in here. That's waste block anyway, so.
So your
I have-
hole is the same on both sides. So
Yes.
Some of the demos make a three-quarter inch hole and a half. I like this.
Well, if you do it that way, you have to measure each hole and measure your tenon so it would fit and snap together good. So this is the same, it's universal. So if you made a dozen finials, they should fit all of your hollow forms as long as you don't enlarge that hole. Now, this is nothing but a piece of copper. Bill can probably tell you what gauge this is. I can't do it, but that should be a 1/2 inch gap right there. Okay, can you see that on the camera? I can't. I just got a 1/2 inch. Anyway, I've got a 1/2 inch gap. Exactly. I know I'm 1/2 inch right here. So I put this crooked in here, and if I touch the wall with that crook, I don't have a gap here, so I know I'm 1/2 inch thick right here. In a minute, it's going to get thinner and thinner and thinner, and I'll know. We'll get there when I get a little bit deeper. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I didn't bring my drill, or I could have made one of these. For those of you who hadn't seen my pierced ornament bodies, I turn them very thin so I can pierce them with my little dental carving tool or burr. And what I want to do is y'all want to take the time to do one thin enough to pierce or not? I can't pierce it, but I can show you how I do it. Do what?
Your nerves allow you to do it.
We'll see. I've got some extra blanks in case they don't.
Maybe just talk about
So what I do, I have a 1/8 inch brad point bit, and I made this was just a little piece of 3/8 dowel rod, and I will put it in this chuck. That's okay, Gerald. I really need a cordless. I'm good. That's got me out of that. Thank you. But I will chuck this up in my cordless drill to where I only have about 3/32 of drill bit sticking out. Okay, and I will come in here and I will put a hole right here, and I will turn it and spiral it, and I will just do random holes all the way around here. I don't want them in a line. I don't want them in a straight row when I start piercing, because then you can see I have a straight line of holes. So I just scatter them around by 1/8 to 3/16 apart. And as I'm turning, so I know I'm 3/32 deep here. As I'm turning on the inside, when I see dust come out of those holes, I know I just hit the bottom of that hole, so I'm 3/32 deep right there. Don't go back and touch that spot. And I'll go all the way through the steps until I get to the end, and then I know I'm done. I can part it off, and it's ready to pierce. Any questions?
how critical is a nice finish on the inside when you're going to pierce?
Nobody can see it. Can't see it. Nobody brought it to my attention anyway, so. Not saying you can't see it, but, and I pierced the very, very small hole in there, so you would have to really look, and try to go through one hole to see. And Rory, to answer your question, I'm going in grain now. Okay, I'm kind of just going back and forth this way. I removed the mask. Now I'm kind of following the contour of the form itself. Now I'll have to stop and check a few times. I don't want to get too thin that I go through here, even though I do have some more blanks if I do that. Okay, I'm still, that's 1/2 inch, and I have a 1/16 gap, so I'm a little bit too thick there. When I'm at home, I turn off, when I'm doing these thin ones, I turn off my radio. I don't want any noise. I don't want any distraction. And I can listen to it, and you can tell the sound of it when you get thinner and thinner. You can tell by the noise that it makes. So I know it's time to stop and do a little check. And then once I get done, I crank up my 70s music again and keep on going. So, okay, I have about 1/8 of an inch gap. And remember, this is a 1/2 inch gap here. So that's telling me I have a wall thickness of 3/8. So I still got more to take out. That's not too much math for you, is it, John?
No, I'm right with you.
That's right, you're a math major anyway, right? Okay, I still got to go a little bit deeper, so that's good. I kind of sneak up on the walls and the bottom. I don't want to go too much, which I've done that several times, so it won't be my first to mess up. Yes, sir.
You ever take that depth and put your mark with a black marker or a piece of tape or something on your tool to know how deep your tool's going to have to stop?
There might be a black mark right there, right there. You barely can see it, but there's already one right there. And that's normally, see, that's ideal right there. That's right on top of it. So, yeah, that works. So, see, that tells me right there, my line is at the edge of the hole. So I probably don't need to go any further back this way. And that black mark is rubbed off. See, I'm maybe 3/32 to the back of the hole, back of this side of it. So as far as the length, the depth of it, I'm good. I don't want to go any further. Here, I still have a little bit more to take out. Don't have to. Sir? Yeah, that's the magic word, right? One last cut, and then it makes that noise when you got 2 parts. And when the inside diameter and the outside diameter become the same, you got a problem.
There are no new design opportunities.
No, not for that. They glow, they burn up pretty good. They glow good in the fire. All right, my depth back here is good. So all I'm doing is scraping this top surface right in here. Whoop! I don't want to do that too many times. Can you tell the noise it's making? You hear? Can you tell it's thinner?
Yeah.
It's making a shrill noise. It tells me I need to be careful. I'm 360. I'm going to stop right there. Today's not a good day for me to go too much further.
All you're doing is making it lighter.
That's it. I've seen Christmas ornaments before that were hollowed. I mean, not even hollow, just drilled straight through. So it's up to whatever you want to do. If they're too heavy, you have to hang them in the middle of the tree where nobody can see them. So if not, the tree will be like this a little bit. Yeah. So I'm now I'm making those downhill cuts, just removing some waste so I can get in here and have me a little more room. Now I've got this, if you can tell from the camera, the top view of this, I'm long. This end is long. It's not squashed like I want it to, so I might.
Hey, you need to realize you're making the wall thinner, but from the
You're right. So now I do want to check that and make sure. I think I do have enough room. I want to. Don't. I'm gonna round off this little edge right in here. I don't like. See, it just took one more cut. Should have left it alone. I like that a lot better. It just took one cut. It's probably 2 1/8. Yeah, probably 2 1/8 inch square, and then I rounded it off to 2 inches. It was 3 inches to start off with to give me plenty of play in here. I tried that, but you get a lot of vibration. I tried to do it 6 inches long so I could get 3 in a row, but way out here, it was no. Do it on the inside is where you have your problem. So yeah, I quit doing that.
What you could do is just cut it out, make it round on the end, and then cut it. Well, put it in a can, cut it off, do it again, then cut it off. You don't want to be following it when it's.
No, it's too much. It's just too much chatter sticking out there. This is a crisp Stott scraper. I mean, parting tool. Thank you. Somebody say something?
Parting tool.
When you part with it there as it is, are you going straight across or are you trying to maintain that curve?
I'm going to do both. I was just fixing to tell you, you can use the side of your scraper. You can use the side of your parting tool as a scraper. So I've got a couple of little ridges right down in the bottom. So I'm going to tilt it just a little bit, and it's going to become a scraper. So I'm going to scrape those ridges out, and then I will go ahead and go straight in and part the rest of it off.
And would you have sanded this?
I did sand it with 120, you know, yeah. This would be sanded to 400 grit before. At this point right here, I would stop and sand everything to all the way up to 400 and be done with it.
What about a finish?
I don't do that until I have all my pieces together.
You don't have to do
Right. So I don't know if you can. Don't keep in mind I've got a 1/2 inch hole here, so I have to think about that as I sneak up on that little tenon right there. It's going to get very weak. But I'm going to try to scrape that edge right there and get that little ridge out of there. There you go. Okay. I'm going to go straight in. There we go. I have this little tapering tool. I don't know where I got this thing, but it is a gem. It's a reamer of some type. But it really does clean out the little burr that you leave in there. I'm thicker than I thought I was at the bottom, but that's okay. Now I get to decide which way, when I make my finial, which way, well, you can't see there, which way is it going to look? It's pretty equal. It's pretty balanced, isn't it? Can y'all tell?
I think that looks good.
Versus this way. Yeah, you can see now when you turn it around, you can see it's not completely squashed like I would like for it to be. So this is going to be the bottom.
Well, if you have a little turnip type thing, you want that on
Yeah.
the dropping ring.
When you parted it off, how thick is it right there, where you parted it off?
It's probably an 1/8.
An eighth. I was gonna say on mine, I take mine, the piece that's still in your corn saw chuck, I turn it down to the size of that hole and jam it back up on it and trim that edge down and get it down.
And yeah. I've done that too. But today I don't think would be a good day for me to do that. So I'm going to leave it thick. And I'll buy a bigger Christmas tree.
Are the two holes the same size, or are they different sizes when you do that?
Well,
You can't make a jam chuck that'll.
Yeah, he's talking about just the bottom. He's talking about just this right here where it's thick. This is thin on top. It's a little bit thicker here. So what he's actually talking about doing is turning a
can't get that small enough to go in that hole. 'Cause
Oh.
that hole is
This one won't because I have a hole in there.
right. But if you,
But
it looked like
if
you've
you-
seen where it was 3/4 of an inch on the top and the front,
Or you wanna drill it deep.
yeah.
Yeah. So it grows. It grows.
That's it.
It grows on trees, so it's not a problem. Just
Sam, let me back up. I don't usually use the piece that's in the porch on
Yeah.
for that.
yeah. You have another one. Yeah.
And I make it a little bit big, like I cut it with a bandsaw, so I can take it and wedge it up on there good and tight.
Mhm.
Then you can return it on the outside.
I have one like that on a faceplate, and it's a stationary thing. So I just turn it, and you use it over and over and over until you wear it off, turn it all down, and then I just put another piece of wood on there. But what he's talking about is just make a 1/2 inch tenon without the hole in it, and it works good.
Oh,
It's too thick to break. So, and I did measure the.
if I'm,
So it's a 1/2 inch. I measured the bottom, so it's a 1/2 inch hole. So if I make my tenon a 1/2 inch thick, I should be okay.
Sammy, so you were careful when you were using that hollowing tool, not to enlarge that 1/2 inch hole?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I try not to enlarge it if I can. I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be huge. Because if you make it, if you don't touch that hole, then any finial you make will fit it. Well, guys, now we get to use this thing again. So I'm going to change chucks to go with the smaller jaws on it. I'm not going to use my tailstock. I'm not going to use my tailstock on this tenon other than just to help me line it up and get it centered. I do have a punch mark in the center. So that is center right there. I messed up the other day and I was waxing some, I used paraffin wax for my sealer, seal green wood with, and I spilt paraffin wax all inside my jaws of this chuck. And now it's really slickery and lubricated, so it's even hard for me to tighten it up now.
Quick question. What is the
Yeah, one time,
dimension of your piece? Got one by one?
probably 1 by 1. 1 by
When you turn that down, and that's gonna be the base that goes up against your globe, is there any kind of ratio you go for to its width compared to the width of the globe? Now, I know Cindy Drosda does all kind of ratios and stuff.
Yeah, well, hers is if you want to look at ratios, hers is the one to go to because she has got it figured out. I do want a ratio. That ball is probably 2 inches diameter, so I don't want the base. I don't want the base of this ornament. I don't want this right here to be an inch or inch and a half wide. I don't want a huge diameter right here. You follow what I'm saying? I want this to be a fairly small diameter to make it look. And I used the word the other night in my class, the open shop, and I said dainty, but I don't want it to be heavy. You know, you want it to make a Christmas ornament is actually a small detail type thing anyway. So you want to make it all smaller and in proportion. So Yeah, I don't want that to be very, very big. And I just go by eye. I don't know if there's actually a scale out there as far as doing that, but
1/3.
that is the 1/3 is the 1/3, 2/3. That is the normal.
Kevlar. You ever use Kevlar? That looks about right.
I like that.
There you go. I like that. I like that. Yep. Okay.
What was the name you mentioned?
Cindy Drosta.
Drozda.
How do you spell it?
Drozda.
And we have 2 of her, finial DVDs in the library.
Right here, in the box, guys. In that box.
And she is an amazing turner, and if you want to pay a whole lot of money, we could get her back. She's pricey, sir.
I was thinking we could do a remote, but we can't do it here. We can't get it.
Yeah, she does a lot of remotes, but
We had her one time.
yeah, we've had her before. Yeah, yeah, we sure did. She's super talented.
The thing about these nationally known turners, though, you can get good videos.
Yeah, and you can from Cindy too. She does it.
When you have somebody here, you can't rewind her and have her do something again.
Well, we couldn't even do it. We couldn't do the RD here, you know. Okay.
Maybe some changes next year.
If y'all will bear with me for a minute, I want to change the belt speed on this guy.
Faster or slower?
Okay.
You're making it faster?
Yeah. I should have already done this. Sorry for the delay.
You don't get this tape.
Sir? No, I don't need it. Should be a little bit faster RPM here. That's more better. Okay, I'm going to go back to my 3/8 spindle gouge. I'm not going to use my tailstock, and the reason, Charlie White taught me how to do this without the tailstock years ago. If you use the tailstock, when you get down to the point of your finial, if you use the tailstock, when you put it in this little point right here, it gets so thin that it's going to splinter the wood. It's just going to open it up and shatter it, and this is going to be all damaged. It would for me anyway. So, and also when you use your live center, you put a lot of pressure as this gets thinner. You put pressure on the wood. You're going to get a lot of chatter right here because the wood is compressed. So if you ever notice when you use your tailstock on a small spindle, when you remove it, you can see the wood just relax. So it moves back to its normal position. So the best thing to do is try to do it without using the tailstock.
Could you at least at first just use the cup about the pin, and then when you got towards it, then you just cut down a little bit?
Well, maybe. I don't know. I hadn't tried that. Oh, I'm not going to say you can or cannot. Donuts and coffee. No, I'm good. Trust me, I want one, but I'm okay. Yeah. Yeah, you are getting fast forward today. I'm just going to take light cuts, and I have to because I've got 5 inches of wood hanging out here with not much support on the end. So I'm just taking light cuts. Notice I'm going downhill. I'm not going to go all the way back. I'm going to leave as much mass up here, as much mass as I can. Yeah, please do that. As I go along here and I cut an inch or two back, and I'm going to stop. I will sand this as much as I can. I'm going to block that with my hand, aren't I?
Go ahead. I'm trying to make the camera look better, but
You may have said this, but what is the tool you're using?
3/8 spindle gouge. Got me working in the dark now, Gerald. I'm okay. Is my hand blocking it? I'm still trying to use my left hand as a steady wrist, because I'm going to get pretty thin right here. And at some point, like right now, I'm going to go, eventually I'm going to go kind of back uphill again. Well, it helped me a lot. Did it help you? Seriously, I can see now the reflection of the light.
It looks great up there.
Well, thank you, John. Oh, you talking about that? Steroids.
You need it's your sinuses.
Yeah,
You need a Decatron truck.
Had 'em.
Decatron shot, that'll calm you down. I was wondering if anybody was paying attention. I know. It was.
I gotta turn this around. Busting my knuckles. I was telling the other night, I think in the open shop, we were doing this. I think Brian Hill was turning his, and we were discussing this area right in here. I want it to be a continuous radius. I don't want to, that's just my personal preference. I don't want a straight line anywhere in there. I want everything to be a flowing curve. So I'm going to try to make this kind of a radius.
And it's going to end up in OG when you.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Yeah, when I come back and do the onion bulb.
When did you finials with shoes?
I don't know. I don't know if she uses a skew or not. Yes, sir? If I've got what? Yep. Sharp, you said? You're right. Sharp tool is what Don just said. Is keep in mind everybody needs to use a sharp tool, especially doing this detail work. You don't want to have to push at all. It needs to be a really light touch, but that goes with anything. A sharp tool is critical. It's very critical. Okay, that feels pretty good. I'm going to leave that alone right there. Now I brought 2 of my spindle gouges just in case I have to use it just for what Don just said. If you need sharp tools. So if I get this one dull, I have a backup. Now here we go with that ratio thing again that you mentioned, Rory. Yes, sir.
Cheryl informed me that part you turn is the onion or the finial.
That's what he just said.
Yeah, this is the onion bulb of the fitty right here. That's called the onion bulb. Yes, sir.
Apparently you're doing that as pulling that, what I'm calling pulling rather than adding bevel.
Kind of. So you can go both ways. Eventually, I'm going to turn around in a minute and go back rubbing the bevel going downhill to this. But yeah, that's yeah. And when I get and I'll do it now. When I get this closer to size, and I'll just go ahead and do it now. Now I'm back to rubbing the bevel. I'm not doing the scraping cut.
One of the things that comes into the decision is if you're coming from
Headstock.
yeah,
Headstock.
the headstock, you got that in the way and it's hard to do it, push
It is.
it's easier.
That's the reason I'm on this end of it. I mean, it's kind of hard to get your body in there unless you learn to turn really well left-handed on small pieces.
It's more
Then,
dangerous because especially if you have sleeves,
yeah, well,
you don't want to do that with sleeves.
I don't have a problem. I don't wear long sleeves. I don't have long hair, so I'm okay with that.
Well,
I'm not.
is that how you lost your hair?
No, but I tell you what I did. I did experience. Y'all probably already heard me say this, but I worked in a machine shop for several years, and we had a young guy. I say young guy, like a 20-year-old young kid in there, and he had long hair. And our shop manager foreman told him, you need to put that hair under a hat or in a ponytail. He refused to do it. He didn't see the need of it. And he was on a drill press, which we all have drill presses in our shop. And he turning metal. When you drill in metal, those big long shavings are whippy. They don't break off like this, like wood does. And those shavings started going around and round and round. And he leaned over to do something. Those shavings grabbed that ponytail, that hair, and snatched it. You're laughing, Rory, but it snatched his head down to that drill press and pulled out a wad of hair that big. He had a bald spot right there, that big around. It pulled every bit of it out. Oh, it was bleeding. He like it'd been a John Wayne movie. He was scalped, man. It just.
That Asian girl up in, wasn't it Memphis?
Virginia or somewhere.
Virginia. Oh, there was another one in at the same time. Yeah. We had 2 deaths inside of a month, and they're women that were turning. Yeah.
That's a good safety topic. Long hair, long sleeves, jewelry. I have a ring stand that I was gifted it when I went to SWAT last year. You know, when you go to SWAT, they put all these little things on the table for gifts. And it was really a candle holder, but I turned it off and made a ring holder out of it. So I take my wedding band off and put it on there because I don't want anything to grab. I don't wear a watch. I don't have long hair. I don't wear long sleeve shirts. So I'm sorry?
I have found when you're doing those really delicate cuts, if you'll take some carnauba wax and rub it on your tool rest, the back of your pruning tool,
Yeah,
it'll slide much easier.
it does. It does slide easier.
Because if it grabs just a little bit, then you get another cut.
You're right. What Jim was saying, he uses carnauba wax on his rest, and I do the same thing. I have an old candle, and I will rub that candle on there. You know, anything to slick it off. And I almost probably once a week I have a flat file, and I will file down all of my tool rest. I don't want any nicks because you don't want anything in the way there. Okay, I'm going to skip a couple of grits here. I am going to start with 220 on this one because I'm going to dye this, and I don't want any scratch marks, sanding marks, if I can help it. So before this gets too long and too flimsy, I want to go ahead and sand it. I want that edge, I want this little, whatever you call that, I want that to be a sharp, crisp feature on the end. I don't want it to be, I don't want to round it off with sandpaper, so I got to be careful with that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go to 320 and then the 400. When I get through going with it and making the radial scratches in it, I will probably turn it off and go along with the grain. And that takes some of those radial scratches out. Getting a phone call, so I guess somebody killed a deer at deer camp this morning. They're rubbing it in. That's probably the problem. Yeah. I don't want to answer that phone call. I don't want to look at it right now. All right, my last grit's gonna be 400. I'm going to turn it off and see if I have any of those scratches that I was talking about. And I don't see any. I'm going to leave that alone. Okay. Now I'm going to continue with the other end, the rest of it here on the other end. I'm not going to go back to this one at all. From there, from here to the end, I'll leave that alone. See, I'm making these downhill cuts. This area right in here, I want to make this kind of dainty right here. I don't want it to be big and gaudy on the very end of that. I want it to be all kind of proportioned. Boy, these legs get in your way, don't they? Okay. Now here's where you come to make the decision, how big do you want your I don't know what I'm going to call this area right here, the fattest area. How big of a diameter do you want the base to be? And I don't want it to be big. It's too tight for that one. See, I don't want it to be too big, but probably, I don't even know, 3/4 inch maybe. So I'm going to turn this down so I get that base like I think I like it. I'm going to leave it right there. And then I'm going to come in here and make with my parting tool. I got to have a tool rack over here. And this is where I'm going to take it down to the measurement that I had at the end of my ornament, the ball itself, and I think it was a 1/2 inch. Sorry?
That's what you started with.
Yeah, I measured it. I didn't go any farther than that. And since I worked in the machine shop, I still have my tools and I still measure everything. Instead of using calipers, just regular calipers, I have to measure it. Just a bad habit. I want it to be a snug fit. I don't want it to be sloppy. 3 more thousandths. I'm 3/1000ths under. That's going to be a good fit. I'm going to put a little chamfer right here. And then I want the, now that I have a flat surface right here, this area right here is just as flat as it can be. That flat surface, when you put it on here, it's going to look like a snowman's hat. You know, it's going to have a big wide gap in between the roundness of this and your flat part of your ornament. So I'm going to come in here with my little scraper, my parting tool, and I'm going to undercut. Does that wash it out? Okay, could you see what I did? Did the light knock it out? I just went right up under here to undercut that, remove that shoulder. And I will part this off right there after yes sir.
Were you trying to get that right at 1/2 inch or a little proud of that?
I want it to be just a little bit smaller than the hole itself. If it's larger than the hole, then you got to either trim this down or enlarge your hole for it to go in. And this was right at a 1/2 inch when I measured it. And that's a little bit under, just a few thousandths under a 1/2 inch, so it should snap in pretty good.
Glue it in, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna glue it in, yeah. But if you cut it too small, then it's gonna be sloppy. So when you glue it, it may be off center, and your finial is gonna be hanging this way when it hangs from the tree. So, I don't even think that needs sanding, but I'll hit it with sandpaper. Good thing about a sharp tool and rubbing the bevel, it gives you a tremendous finish. So I started at 400, now I'm going back to 120. I'm getting ready to. I'm going to do that last. Yeah, I'm going to do that in just a second. And what he's talking about, this point to, this is a homemade tool. I want this area right in here. I want this right here to be a really crisp, sharp shoulder. And this is my homemade, this is a worn out 3/8 spindle gouge. This is what it was right here to begin with. Can you see the difference in the two where which way I need to go? Whew. Okay, let's do this. Okay, can you, the one in my left hand right here, I flattened out on my grinder, and then I rolled it over, and I really made, you see how much I changed a lot of that, took all that shoulder off of it. So it kind of works as a round nose skew, and it gets in these corners really well. But it's really grabby, so you have to be careful. It's kind of like a skew, it grabs, and if I'm not really careful, it will skate all the way down my finial, and then throw it in the floor and start over again. Okay, that's as far as I'm going with that.
You want to keep it vertical when you do it.
Yeah, yeah, and you definitely rub the bevel with it, because if it gets off of that flat bevel, that's when it's going to take off on you. Okay, now for the dyeing part of it. Do we have time to dye it? Sir?
Yes, we have time.
Okay.
I think most of us need to die.
Why is that?
Now you're meddling.
Too small.
You also make the top part for where the
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And today's y'all's lucky day. We do free physicals.
Bonus.
Yeah. What I'm using here is black trans tint dye, and when it gets on your fingers, you have to wear it off. It doesn't come off very, very easy. And I'm not going to. I usually have to dye it about 4 times maybe to get it jet black. This time I'm probably not going to do it quite that many times, because I have to wait a few minutes in between each layer of it to dry, and I don't want to bore you to death with that.
Is it alcohol or water?
It is water-based, alcohol based.
it's
No, it's water-based.
yeah, but you can mix it with either.
I think you can. I think that's right. Yes, sir, Roy.
Paper or cloth you use?
It's paper cloth. It is.
Toilet tissue.
Damn. It is one of the softest paper towels, and I can't think of the name of it. Walmart has it. Is it not Bounty, but it's a maybe it's Steve. It's a real. Would you like to have one of them? But it's a real soft paper towel. I just cut it up in little squares. But it's not a toilet tissue. It's actually a paper towel. That's yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So you don't mix it with anything.
Straight out of the bottle. Straight out of the bottle.
Now, have you ever used like boot
Shoe
dye?
polish, boot.
Not shoe polish, but boot dye.
I have tried some of that before, and it seemed like it came off too easy. And I will buff this once I put a finish on there. I'll buff it, and it seems to come off too. It wears off. This really, and what I usually do is I put a heavy coat on it, like just barely touch it, and I let it dry. Leave it, because it's rich, it's dark, it's black, black, black. The more I rub, the more I take off of it. So I'm going to do one more coat, and I'm going to let that dry for a second. I'm going to leave it really dark.
There's also that method of using like, filings and or Brillo pad or something you put in.
Yeah, vinegar and Brillo pad, yeah, to make a,
For galvanizing.
yeah. but it just doesn't get it.
Looks like
It doesn't get it black. It just gets it blackish, but it's not as black as the dye. And takes the place of having to buy ebony. Ebony is crazy expensive. Yes, sir.
You ever use kiwi black sheep?
I have, does it work okay for you?
I have plenty of transtints, black.
Yeah. I've tried black gesso.
There's also,
This is not as black as I would normally get it, but I am going to cut it off at this point. And I can, a lot of times if I don't have the patience to sit here and wait for it to dry, I'll put a good 1 or 2 coats off and take it off. And then I'll just hand rub it on my table somewhere.
Sam, what kind of wood is that?
Cherry. I want a dense wood. I failed to mention that earlier, but I do want a dense wood for the finial, so it'll really. It's black cherry. It's black cherry. Now it's really black cherry. It's still just a little bit tacky, but I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. I did measure that step in my shoulder. Yeah, I did. I couldn't remember if I measured that or not. Too late now, isn't it?
well, that's the beauty of it. If you mismatch the bottom and the top, you can always turn one of each to the right, to the new size.
Now it's a pretty tight snap fit there, and that's what you want.
That is pretty.
It may be a little bit tacky. Those
Yeah,
may have a little
don't-
black,
Well, don't cut
a little black on your fingers there. Yes, sir.
I just ordered a 4-bottle pack of transtent, 4 different colors, and it was the cheapest I've seen, like at $19 a bottle.
Really?
That's from Veneer Supply. Like,
Is it the same? Is transtent? It comes in different colors?
and then you can buy them individually.
Wow. So there you go. So you could have red finials. I mean, you could really dress it up and make it whatever you want.
Like 20 or 30 colors.
Really.
Yeah. I got a bottle of red transcend that I used on one of the very first furniture jobs less than 20 years ago.
I've heard of people using transtent.
Still there.
I've heard people using that on furniture, especially on cherry. The light layer of that red really makes everything change color. It looks really good, doesn't it?
You also use it on maple. If it's tiger maple, you'll use an amber to bring out the tiger stripes.
Most of the colors of transtent are geared toward brown colors for flatwood work. That's the basis of it.
I think they added the other colors.
Got a little wobble here, but that's okay. It's going to come out.
Years ago, I don't remember seeing all.
So what I'm going to do now is I've got your scrap piece in there. I could have used the piece that I had left over and to make the top, but I didn't want to have too much sticking out, not enough in the chuck to really bite. So I used this longer piece. Now I've got 1.5 inches stuck in the chuck, so it's going to be supported a little bit more. And I'm still going to use my 3/8 spindle gouge. This is my shoulder right here. This is going to be the shoulder that's going to actually be touching the bottom of the ornament. And I want it to be similar to the same size as that one that's going around. I don't want it to be big and gaudy on top and tiny on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it down some more. get it pretty. I don't measure them. I just kind of get it close. I don't think anybody's going to put a scale on there to make sure you did it correctly. I said something a while ago about rubbing the bevel on it, using a sharp tool. And see, I'm rubbing the bevel of my gouge on here, and by doing so, you will get a really smooth cut. And I could probably, we'll look and see in a minute. I could probably get away with starting at 220, maybe 320, because especially on cherry, it really cuts good. Let's see here. Just making a little room for my parting tool. It's hot. I'm going to turn that diameter, I think, just a little bit more. I think it's a little bit fatter than the other one. I didn't measure a while ago, but I think that top one is a 1/2 inch as well. I'm just going to turn this down to a 1/2 inch, and it should be a good snug fit in the top. I said I didn't measure the whole of that of the piece a while ago, so I'm going to assume that a 1/2 inch is going to be the same.
It's coming back.
Measure it for me, Roy. I'm just kidding. I got it. Okay, this is the top. I did cut a little bit off of the inside of that hole. It's good right there. Put that little got a crisp line with no breaks in it, so I'm good with that. I'm going to come back and do the same thing I did earlier and recess, cut that back edge out so it will fit nice and snug. And now I've got a massive drill bit here that I'm going to drill a hole in the end of it. And this is going to be, can you see the drill bit here? So I think this is a 1/16, and I think my little hooks I have are a little bit larger than that. I'm going to be like Michael Jackson now and just put on one glove. Yeah. I'm just going to put one little dab on there and just to make it black. Let that dry for a second. Sir?
Just slip your finger in under the glove like that.
Is to do what? Say that again?
Slip your finger in under the glove like that and peel it off.
What if you have dye on both hands?
You use one finger that you don't have. Just don't scratch it, no.
Blow up in it and it come off.
Hold your
Okay.
hand up, Sammy.
Also, you tear it up, you tear it off and get a new glove.
Yeah. Okay. Thank y'all for all the ideas. I'll use all those when I get home.
Well, we criticize you where we can, because we can't criticize your turnout.
Okay, I've got this shape, that little simple shape, ready to go on the top. I have drilled it and it's ready for the little screw eye. And everything is black, and I'm going to part it off and hope it fits. Squirrel. Okay, it's a little bit looser than the bottom, and I have these little screw eyes here that, well, I'm not going to take one of these out. Yeah, I will too. Charlie White, when he was showing me how he did his ornaments, he would use fishing hooks. He would buy
Use a brim hook?
He'd buy the brim hooks by the thousands.
Yeah.
Because Charlie was a Christmas ornament making dude, but he would cut the hook off
You
of it.
cut the hook off, you slide it down to the
Yeah.
end, and then you turn it like that.
Yep, that's it.
Put a little bit of glue on it if you want.
Now I have a pack of skewers that we were going to throw away. So this is my glue stick for these little tight areas. So I just tip into my little bottle of wood glue, and it will actually allow you to get into these tight corners right in here, and just put a little dab of glue right in there, on the inside of the hole there, and I will snap them together and then put it in my little in my clamp so they won't work loose, and they are it'll be done. And then I'll go ahead and dye it. If I need some more dye, I'll go ahead and do that. And then on this one, see, I've got to do the sanding on the ball to get the black dye off of it now. But anyway, that'll sand down pretty easy, and then I'll glue it together, and then I'll come back with my Danish oil finish and put it on there, and you're done with it. And that's it. Thank you.
Do you buff,
Sorry?
do you buff the Danish oil?
I do. So once I get it all, I put probably 2 coats of Danish oil. Sometimes I use friction polish on the top and the bottom finial because it's already shiny. It's kind of dangerous trying to buff these. They'll snap out or break off. But I'll use friction polish or something, and it don't have to be buffed to quite so much.
Lacquer works really well too.
Yeah.
Glue with what? Just Tybond or?
Yeah, I just use just old wood glue.
If you use an exotic, well, I guess you could do that. Carnauba and use a towel, so that what's on the lathe
Mm-hmm.
is good for buffing too.
Yeah, it would. There's several ways to buff it. I have taken some black rattle can lacquer and spray these black, and they are just shiny black. You don't have to do anything else to them. That works really well. It's hard to figure out a way to hold it without painting your hand.
Here's how. I get a little piece of wire with a hook on the end, and I hang it, the ornament from that little wire hook, and then you can spin it
While you're spraying.
while you're spraying it. Just go.
And it looks good too, doesn't it? The black.
Up, and 10 minutes. You
Yep.
do it again, and then you're done.
You're doing lacquer, straight lacquer?
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing the black lacquer.
No, clear. Clear lacquer.
I was using the black lacquer.
And
And
that's
the only place I
only
could-
the finial and the
And the top, yeah. Only place I found that was at home, Ace Hardware. But they have it, but anyway, it works great. It is black and shiny, and it doesn't take very much.
That's that stuff that they use on the Asian boxes and stuff that just makes it look.
Yeah, it does look good. Any questions? Everybody, did y'all notice any of the guys that came to the open shop? Were they napping? Any of them sleep? No?
I don't know, I was asleep. I
You didn't see anything, did you?
didn't see anything.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.